When I was about 16 years old, I was in those very formative years that everyone walks through, trying to figure out who I was as a person, who I wanted to be, and the impact that I wanted to have in the world. I think this is a very shared thing for many people to get through life and know they got to the end saying, I did something, I made something. At the end of my life, or at the end of my job, at the end of my schooling, I want to be able to look back and say, that's a different place than when I wasn't there. I made a change there. I want to move to talk about the individuals and talk about the ways that we as people can help individuals become successful in that sense so that they go to the end of their lives or whatever that stage may be and can look back and know, I made a difference, I did something important. When I was 16, this movie came out called Fight Club. And Fight Club's a great movie. If anyone's never seen it, you're going to hear some spoilers maybe. But one of the great things about Fight Club is it made a bit of a satire about this thing where it's very formulaic, right? You just do this and then you're happy. And you go to college and then you get a job and you get married. And all those things just end up in being happiness. We've heard this before. It's not a new concept. And for me, at those years, Fight Club did a good job of defining the boundaries. This is when I knew I was off track. This is when I knew I wasn't doing the things that would add up to how I wanted to make an impact. I got out of high school. I was lucky enough to go to college. I got my degree. I was lucky enough to get a job, and I was that go-getter Midwesterner that wanted to do great work. I was working a lot, doing the 80-hour-a-week thing, that sort of gig, and I was sitting in the computer bay at the place that I worked, and I looked back and I thought, my goodness, I'm that guy. I'm doing the things that aren't adding up to how I want to make an impact. And that scene with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton laying in the bathtub after the fight that they had came into my head. Brad Pitt saying, I talked to my dad and I said, hey Dad, I got my high school degree, what do I do? He said, I don't know, go to college. So he went to college, got his degree, called his dad, hey Dad, what do I do? I don't know, get married, get a job. And all of that was the stuff that I had done. I had not yet been married, but all of that was the life that I was leading. I thought, this isn't good for me. I need to step out of the whitewater, step out of that chaos of life and figure out where that direction is going to go for me and how I want it to add up to make an impact in the world. For me, that idea and the way and the playbook came out of Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you've spent any time with me, or if you will in the future, you'll know that that's a very important book to me, and it's so important that I've almost geared everything that I do in my life around that. Covey breaks down the habits into private victories and public victories, and he puts 2 triangles on top of each other to talk about how those habits kind of break apart. For me, I found the private victory to be very successful in figuring out what it meant for me to make an impact in the world and how I knew that I was going to work towards the thing that were going to add up to an impact and be able to look back. It gave me a way to execute on that. I'm a very analytical thinker, and I needed that sort of path. I did that, and I was ready to move into the public victory. I started looking around. Who are other people that are excited about what I'm excited about so that we can do something and make a change in this world? The way Covey talks about it, he talks about how when you start looking at the things that are important to you, you realize that the things that you're dreaming about are much smaller than what could be if you know yourself and know the ways that you can make an impact. You begin to look out over the horizon, and the dreams that you have become huge. They become significant. And the gap that I found between the public victory and the private victory is that I couldn't find anyone to help me accomplish the goals that I had, and I felt alone. I felt disappointed. I felt that I got tricked. And I'm not a person that likes to feel those types of feelings. In comes collaboration. And I thought that collaboration was going to be the way, and actually Covey calls it synergy. And what I want to talk about is the idea that collaboration as we know it, I think, has lost its definition. We use it a lot, and I've seen a lot of it in the different circles that we talk about, but in just as many places, it's almost become a completely different word. It's like when people say, well, I could care less. But in fact, they mean the opposite. They couldn't care less. And sometimes when we talk about collaboration, we're not really talking about ways that we're working together to get this common dream accomplished. For me, collaboration breaks down into 3 different parts, and what we can do is work with the people that we work in, the circles that we have, and what Covey calls the circles of influence to make these things happen. The first part about collaboration is being able to speak about what it is that you're excited about, be able to share these big dreams, to be able to work with one another to say, this is what I want to see happen in the world. Do you have that too? I think when we're together in groups like this, we understand that that is a very shared thing, and there's a lot of people that share that, right? We're here because of that very purpose. But being able to work outside of the normal places that we are and find other people that are sharing that vision and sharing the same thing that we want to have happen, that's the first step. Once we get there, we need to be able to talk about what we're good at, talk about our strengths. Culturally, it's almost taboo to say, you know what, this is something I'm good at. It's not okay to say, hey, I have these skills, and this is what I bring to the table and what I will complete as we work towards that goal. We need to work to actually reinforce that, to practice and exercise individuals' abilities to speak what they're good at with one another in a way that's not bragging, but a way that's saying, this is what I can do and this is what I'm good at, this is what I bring to the table as we seek to accomplish that goal. The last part of that is one I've recently learned, and that's weakness. Being able to say, this is something I'm not good at. Brene Brown has really been a pioneer in this idea of speaking about vulnerability, and as a man working in society, it's not necessarily okay to say, hey, I'm not good at everything. It's almost this ridiculous concept and an expectation that we have of one another to just be good at everything. Well, you can do everything, right? Well, no, I need the help. We need to be able to speak about the things that we can do and the things that we need help in order to accomplish these significant dreams and these huge impacts that we all want to make in the world. I come out of the business world. I'm not actually in education, and for the last 10 years, I've been working in software, and before that, doing some general IT stuff. I'm a computer nerd. You can think about the impact in the business world that this would have if individuals are able to collaborate, to be able to speak in that sense, to say, this is what I want to see happen, have that be an internal drive towards the goals that they want to see. This is what I'm good at, and this is what I need help in. If I could look through the different teams that I've worked on over the course of my career, the amount of time, and that would translate to any numbers of people, dollars spent just convincing one another to do what the other person wants to do, almost outweighs the number of things that you're able to do because of that. We all know that value of collaboration. We all know that that's important, and we want to work to how to get there and things that we can do. For me, in those formative years, if I had someone that would work with me to speak to what that idea is and those concepts are, that could change the way that everything happened in my career. We have that opportunity now to work in the different arenas that we are, to work with the people and the kids that are in those years to start speaking that. Start measuring one another against the ways that we're willing to risk with one another. In those times, I don't know that I would have been able to say to somebody, this is what I want to see happen. This is the desires of my heart. This is the impact that I want to see without feeling self-confident. I think we're all very, kind of self-conscious in those times, and having adults around me that would have pushed me to say, speak your mind and speak what you want to see. You are that way for a reason. Go make that thing happen, and be able to communicate that and be willing to risk would change everything that happened from there on out. Out of that, you would have students that would be able to work with one another in a humble way to say, this is something that I want to do. This is the dream that I have. Can you work together with me? Remove the competitive nature of relationship that's all over the culture and move it to this collaborative way where we say, this is something that I want to do. We can do this together. Can you dream that dream with me and make this happen? Kids would start working together, doing this thing, and then sharing that reward together. You'd start to see the celebration in the kids, and in many pictures we see, we know that people are doing this, and support those concepts, support that work, and have that be a regular part of the assessment that happens there. When those students move out of that environment that they're in and more into the environment as contributors from the employment standpoint, working as entrepreneurs, working in different businesses, those same concepts will apply and grow. Just like someone on an exercise plan or whatever that may be will slowly get better and stronger and faster, these students that have exercised those very skills of speaking what they want to see happen, speaking what they're good at, and asking for help where they need to, will become far more confident in the things that they want to do in the world. They'll be far less worried about what someone else might say about what they're doing, because they've exercised that strong enough, and they know that this is what I want to see regardless of what anybody else tells me. It's important to me, and so it's important. You'll get this confidence in individuals not necessarily worried about what others might think, executing towards what they have and working with one another to do that. They'll begin actually basing their relationships on how they can accomplish those dreams together and thinking about, this is what I want to see happen. Let me find other people that want to do that too. All the tools that we have, like social networking, Twitter, Facebook, all those things will help individuals communicate what they want to see happen and then connect with one another globally to make that happen. Once we have that, we'll begin seeing, instead of this idea of the shared reward, Seth Godin talks about in Tribes how more and more people just get sucked into this concept. It almost becomes a black hole of excitement and energy, where now this shared reward that started in our classrooms will become this black hole of momentum that's unstoppable. You will not be able to stop what these kids are able to do and what these individuals in society will be able to do, because they're so excited and driven internally to accomplish what they want to see happen. The vision for me and what I want to see happen is I was able to move away from looking at my feet and see everywhere and see kind of over the horizon is a culture of community members that are doing that same thing with their communities. It's not necessarily about those individuals working together to accomplish something for themselves, but for the sake of the places that they live, the communities that they live in, and those relationships that they're trying to build. In a way to exercise what I'm talking about, I will admit that I'm strong and I have an ability to speak this. It's a very personal thing for me as I looked for some help in filling the gap between those private and the public victories. I needed help there to find other people that are able to accomplish the things that we're all dreaming of. And I think the help that we need to do is to work with one another to make that muscle exercise as a student and those individuals grow up. The weaknesses that I have is that I'm slow to listen and I'm quick to act. And I need help from the people that are here to slow down, figure out what we can do, and make decisive, specific steps towards making that impact. The things that we dream about, the things that we're thinking about, and the ways that we want to make an impact will fill that gap and move towards a place where everyone at the end will be far more excited about the lives that they've led. I thank you for your help and for your time.